Let's adopt a comfortable posture. Take 3 deep breaths, releasing with each out breath any tensions, any discomforts in your body, allowing your body, your breath, and your mind to settle in its natural state. Now let your breathing be natural without controlling it. And let's do a scan of our bodies. Bring your attention to the top of your head. Feel the sensations there. And relax any points of tension you find as we do a scanning of our body. Imagine your attention coming down in a three-dimensional way, scanning your body. So feel your forehead, the sides and the back of your head at that height, and release any tension in your forehead. With each out breath, do the relaxation deeper and deeper. Relax your eyes, your eyebrows, leaving the eyelids very relaxed. Your eyes can be closed or slightly open, allowing some light to come in. Relax all your face, the jaw. Leave your lips slightly touching, the tip of the tongue behind the upper teeth, touching the palate. And slightly tuck your chin in so that you feel your cervical vertebra straightening. Continue bringing your attention down to the neck and shoulders, relaxing with each out breath any points of tension that you find on your way down. Relax your torso, leaving your column straight. As a column of coins, and relaxing all the muscles around your column, your spine. Relax your arms. Leave some space between your arms and your torso. Relax your hands on your lap. You can put your hands on your legs, on your knees, or in the traditional mudra of meditation, with one hand on top of another and the thumbs slightly touching. Relax your hips. Feel the contact with the cushion or the chair. Send all your weight, all your tension to the ground. Release it to the gravity. Relax your legs. If you're cross-legged, make sure your knees are stable, that you're not doing effort to keep the posture. If you can touch the ground or the cushion, that would be good. Make sure it's a stable posture. If you're in a chair, make sure your feet are touching the ground, the soles of your feet. Your legs are parallel. And when you find that the posture can be sustained without too much effort, that you can relax in that posture, then just stay there. Allow your body to find stillness. Now, let's set our intention, our motivation for this practice. That we can train our minds, cultivate greater balance, presence, understanding, and that this can be beneficial not only for us, but for those around us as well. Now, as your body continues relaxing with each out breath, become aware of the sounds around us. Become aware of any sensations arising in your body. Without labeling, without getting distracted by these stimuli, just notice them, allow them to be there. Let them pass when they pass. Become aware of any other perceptions, such as thoughts, emotions, memories, any physical and mental events that are happening in the present moment. Just notice that they are there. Take a look at your body with introspection. Correct any points in your posture to make it more comfortable, more stable. Relax any muscles that are tensing, that are tightening up. And then continue relaxing in the present. If you notice your mind getting attached to an object, a thought, a sound, a sensation, just release the grasping. Notice it's there. We are focusing too strongly on anything in particular. Just present, just rest. Now notice the state of your mind. If it's too distracted, too agitated, consciously relax with the out-breath. Release all concerns of the past, any plans of the future, worries, hopes and fears. Allow your mind to rest in the present. And if you find some sleepiness, laxity, lack of clarity, dullness, then take a deep in-breath, straighten your back. And engage with vividness in the present moment. Now that our body is still, relaxed, and our mind is present, let's engage in an analytical meditation. Maintain that relaxation, stability, and clarity throughout the process of this reflection. Begin by remembering a disturbing situation in your life. It can be something recent or from your past. Now see that event as if you were watching a movie in third person. Observe yourself. And recall what you were thinking and feeling. Not so much what the other person or people involved were saying or doing. How did the way you described the situation to yourself influence how you experience it? Examine how your attitude affected what you said and did in the situation. How did your words and actions affected the situation? And how did the other person respond to what you said and did? There were more than one person involved. Analyze. How did they respond to your words and actions? And ask yourself if your view of the situation was realistic. Were you seeing all sides of the situation? Or were you seeing things through the eyes of me, I, my, and mine. Think of how you could have viewed the situation differently if you had had a broad mind and been free from self-centeredness. How would that have changed your experience of it? As a conclusion, determine to be aware of how you interpret events and to cultivate beneficial and realistic ways of looking at them. And now release all analysis, all visualizations, memories, and come to rest in the present again with an openness. Allowing any perceptions, sensations, emotions to arise and pass while you rest. Let's finish dedicating the potential, the merit we generated through this practice so that we can continue developing greater mindfulness of how we react, how we act in different circumstances, and to transform the way we behave in a way that is more ethical and more helpful and beneficial to ourselves and others. That we continue cultivating the causes of happiness and removing the causes of pain and suffering. And now, slowly start moving. Move your arms, your legs, stretch a little bit. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So, this meditation is intended for us to understand how our mind is the creator of all our happiness and our pain or suffering. The way we interpret reality, the way we understand whatever situation that is happening to us. There is the decision to maybe not a conscious decision, but we are creating that circumstance and how we relate with it in a way that can be interpreted as happiness or as suffering. It's all in how we are perceiving reality. So when we do this meditation, we can do it with any event in our life that we are having a difficult situation. We can also do it for circumstances where we feel happy or joyful, but maybe the other people involved weren't feeling so happy or felt affected by us. So in order to understand how they are perceiving the situation, right? But usually we would do it with something that is disturbing for us. And this attitude of taking a step back and seeing the situation in a third-person perspective, seeing yourself acting within the scene or within the event, helps you detach a little bit and observe yourself and see how you acted with others or how you reacted, what you said, what was your motivation. So if you are recalling an event, you can pause that movie you are seeing in your mind, and especially you would pause it when there's something maybe disturbing, or the moment when you said something and the other person reacted, those key moments where you feel a strong emotion connected to the event. And then you can take some time and just breathe and observe it. Yeah? And then start asking these questions and be very honest and see when you are doing it out of you did or you acted or you said things out of self-centered attachment or out of selfishness or any selfish motivation that can be the cause, and see how could have I acted differently, what I could have said or do that was different. And then you can also try to visualize yourself acting or saying or reacting in a different way and see how that would have affected the situation. Or maybe the other person wouldn't have reacted the way they did because you changed a word or you were more understanding of what was happening, or instead of talking you remained silent, something different, right? Usually we react impulsively without thinking in the consequences, and it's because an emotion was triggered. It happens in milliseconds. There is a word, a memory, something that is detonating that emotional episode, and so we are reacting very fast. And we react with our mind, speech, and body. Those are our three doors of communicating with others and with the world. So when you do this meditation, you can start identifying those triggers of those disturbing emotions or those mental afflictions, right? And if you identify those, then later it's easier because you know, oh, seeing this person detonates this emotion, or the way they speak to me, or hearing my neighbor doing noise. Each one of us has different triggers, and they are all related with our personal story, right? With our life. So you can make a conscious decision. Next time I find this that I know is one of my triggers, instead of reacting as I always do with anger or screaming or not saying anything, any kind of reaction you have but that you see is not beneficial, you can say, well, next time I'm going to try doing it differently, or I'm going to be more aware before the reaction is impulsive. I'm going to see what's happening in my body, what's happening in my mind. Usually just after the trigger, we start feeling something in our body. Our body starts preparing for the reaction. But it happens so fast that when we see, we are already involved in a situation, saying or doing something that later we might regret or make things worse, right? So that's one point that we discover by doing this meditation. And another is that why is the mind the cause of our happiness and suffering? And that is key, right? Because the Buddhist tradition talks about three main causes of suffering, which are ignorance, attachment, and aversion. So ignorance is the not understanding reality as it is, projecting things that are not there or exaggerating things that are there, and then relating with reality with attachment or with rejection, right? So the more we see things as they are and we accept them and we relate with things, people, situations, and even with ourselves without attachment or without rejection or aversion, then the happier we will be, right? The thing is, we are constantly misinterpreting reality. We see something agreeable, a stimuli. It can be something physical or something abstract. We see a person, we see a situation, we see food or whatever perception, taste, smell, sounds, any physical experience that is agreeable, we get attached. We want more of that, or we don't want to let it go. And then anything that is disagreeable, we reject it, we push it away. And that happens with all our experience. So that's the main cause of our suffering, how we are interpreting. Then if we perceive positive qualities on one object or situation or person or idea, anything that we perceive, if we perceive it with positive qualities, when our mind is out of balance, we exaggerate those positive qualities. We think those qualities are intrinsically coming from the object. We think that that food is intrinsically tasty or delicious from its own side without us having to do anything. And without noticing that we are projecting those qualities on that object, right? If the qualities would come from the object, then everybody else would have to perceive it in the same way we perceive it because it comes from the object. But we already know that not everybody likes chocolate or everybody likes cake or anything that we might like and consider that is intrinsically delicious, right? Or not everybody will perceive the same person as beautiful, or the same activities that we are attracted to, they would be interested in doing them. So it's not coming from the object, it's what we are projecting. The problem is that when we perceive those positive qualities and our mind is exaggerating them, then we tend to grasp, we get attached, we want them, or we desire those things if we don't have them. And then if we have them, we want to hold on to them. And that's where we don't see that this ignorance of not understanding reality, for example, not knowing that an object is impermanent, and that sooner or later it's going to deteriorate, it's going to dissolve, it's going to go, it's going to be taken away, or you're going to lose it. There's always going to be a separation from that object, or you're going to change and not want it anymore, or the object is going to change. And when I say object, I'm referring to anything. It can be an idea, it can be a situation, it can be a person. We're referring to the object of your attachment. That's why we call it object. But it's not just like a material object. We are objectifying all reality, even people, right? And so we think that thing, person, idea, situation has the positive qualities I desire, so I must have it. And then if somebody else comes and wants to take it from you, then you suffer. Or if you can't keep it or you don't obtain it, you suffer. Then the same happens on the other side, right? This misunderstanding of reality, projecting negative qualities and seeing them as intrinsic, as permanent, and as coming from the object. So we hear noise and we think it's intrinsically negative, and we blame it on a person or a situation, and then we want to fight or get rid of it or push it away. And we invest all our energy since we wake up until we go to sleep, trying to get pleasurable, good, positive experiences and reject all negative experiences. So we're all in this situation together. It's very familiar. We all know it. And that's what we call samsara, this constant, cyclic, recurrent way of relating with reality based on our ignorance, our misunderstanding of reality. And then by doing this, by being trapped in this cycle, we are constantly experiencing joy and sorrow. But this joy, this pleasure we experience sometimes when we have these positive experiences is considered also part of the suffering, because it doesn't last. We want to keep it, and so we have to keep getting more stimuli and more objects and more possessions and more of those pleasurable things to keep that joy. But it's like an addiction. The more you get, the less happy you are. You want more, right? It's not something that can give you lasting happiness. Now, temporary happiness and experiencing pleasurable experiences from food or any kinds of situations, music, going for a massage, anything, it's not something negative. It's not... of course, some people, and in the Buddhist tradition, some people have had this experience of, well, better I don't relate with that, right? I go into a cave or into a monastery and I take vows not to relate with anything. There are some groups that are as extreme as like, I'm not touching money, or I'm not touching anything that can give me pleasure because that can create problems in my practice, right? But in the Tibetan tradition and in other different styles of practice, we don't necessarily need to get rid of those experiences. What we need to work with is the attachment we have. So there's nothing wrong with enjoying a good meal or a concert or anything you like, right? The problem is holding to these appearances that arise in our reality too strongly, and then start creating problems and suffering because we don't want to let go. But if we relate with an object, situation, person, or circumstance, knowing that it's not going to last, that pleasure or that benefit we get is not going to last, but we enjoy it, and then we release it when it goes. We let it go. We accept the reality of impermanence, then we don't suffer, right? And in the same way, when something negative or disturbing comes to our life, or arises in our experience, we know it's also impermanent. So we are more patient, and we know it's not going to last also. And so we don't fight too strongly, we don't reject so strongly. So in that way, our mind is creating all our experience of suffering and happiness. So we talk about two types of happiness. We have eudaimonic happiness. This eudaimonia, it comes from this, first is the hedonistic happiness, which is the pleasure we're talking about, and then the eudaimonic happiness, which is genuine happiness. It's a happiness that comes from within, that comes from a mind that is in balance, that comes from not having stimuli. It's not from the stimuli, it's not coming from there. It's not coming from an external source. It's coming from a mind that is balanced, that is present, that is in peace, and that understands reality as it is and accepts it. Right? Because if you fight with the fact that everything is impermanent and you want things to be permanent, you're going to be in conflict forever and you're going to suffer. But if you learn to accept that everything is impermanent, then from that understanding, from that wisdom, then comes happiness. The happiness of understanding yourself, knowing reality as it is, and living according to reality. So all these meditations are going to teach us how to get there slowly. So there are different meditations that we're going to be doing on how to work with things that arise in our experience. So we're going to be bringing examples of our life to work with, and difficult situations we had with other people or in our lives, and how to start seeing how we relate with them, and how we can start understanding reality as it is. Because maybe we understand, every one of us understand that reality is impermanent. Like, you just have to analyze a little bit and know, yeah, okay, I agree, everything is impermanent. But we don't live according to that reality. This is one of the 3 marks of existence, or 3 characteristics of existence. We're going to do a meditation on that, but impermanence is one of them. And so the reality is that we live as if things were permanent. We perceive objects, we perceive this object, it looks pretty permanent. We are not experiencing the change that this object had from the beginning of the session until now. Maybe there's other things that are more fluid, like the dog barking. It was barking before, now it's not barking, right? So that's more fluid, so we can see the impermanence in that. But in order to see the impermanence of this object, maybe we need to see it with a microscope, or do it by inference, knowing that this object was not here, 100 years ago, and it will not be here 100 years after today. But maybe it will be, but in a different form. Maybe it will have deteriorated or changed color or transformed into a different object, right? So we are constantly projecting permanence to our bodies, to our lives. We think, yeah, we're going to die, but it's not going to happen today. It's going to happen very far in the distance, in the distant future. And when we perceive people, for example, we have all these ideas of permanence, right? We marry saying, you're gonna make me happy until we die. And then you make a commitment to permanently perceive the other person in that way. But you don't know, things change, and we know things change all the time. So we are constantly projecting permanence on things. And that's how we live. So if we really want to see reality as it is and develop that wisdom, it's not just knowing it intellectually. We have to know it with all our being, from our heart. Really be constantly aware of the reality of impermanence, right? And so in order to do that change of perception and perceive not the reality we are constantly creating based on our mental afflictions, but see reality as it is, we need to do a lot of meditation, because meditation is what allows to bring an understanding into, make it ours, integrating into our form of living and perceiving. Okay, so all these meditations are going to be very helpful in that way. And in the Lam Rim, this path, the steps on the path to enlightenment, these meditations are based on a text that Atisha wrote. Atisha was when, not the first was Padmasambhava, the first that brought Tibet, Buddhism to Tibet. But then Atisha came again and reestablished or made Buddhism alive again in Tibet. And he wrote this very little text that was like 3 pages long. It's called the Lamp. I'll tell you the title later. Something like the lamp of enlightenment, or something like that. And then Lama Tsongkhapa, the founder of the Gelugpa lineage, this is one of the Gelugpa. This monastery is within the Gelugpa school. He wrote a long commentary. Actually, he wrote the long commentary, the medium commentary, the small commentary on this text of Atisha, and that became the Lam Rim, the steps on the path to enlightenment. And then there has been many commentaries on the commentaries of Lama Tsongkhapa. So all these meditations we're going to be doing are extracted from this teaching, and it's very beautiful because it's going to take us all the way to all the things we need to practice and develop on the path to have a round understanding and integrating them into our lives. So we have to start with this, to understand why we suffer and how we create that suffering, right? If we're going to ever remove that suffering. And suffering, we're going to see there's different kinds of suffering, but sometimes we don't even know we're suffering. It's just like a dissatisfaction, a discomfort. Something's not quite right. Something is missing in our life, right? So we're going to talk about different sufferings, different levels of suffering, but all these meditations are going to help us at least understand how we can go from this point of confusion. We say that our minds are confused because we live in this ignorance. How are we going to go from there to developing or cultivating greater wisdom and understanding and discover our true potential, which is our Buddha nature, our inner wisdom, primordial consciousness, however you want to call it. But that's going to be what is going to bring us to genuine happiness and fulfillment and live a meaningful life. Okay, so do you have any questions about this meditation, or you want to share your experience doing this meditation?
Yep. Just a couple of things. What was the two pleasures? One was hedonistic, and the other one, which is
hedonistic, or there is a Greek word called eudaimonia. Eudaimonia.
How is it spelled?
EU. Can anybody spell English?
Eudaimonia.
Yeah, eudaimonia. Eudaimonia, I think it's pronounced in English. Well, anyways, that word is translated as genuine happiness. So we have like the temporary pleasure and genuine happiness on the other hand. Temporary pleasure coming from stimuli, from a source that we perceive as external, right? Coming to our senses, so we need to get the pleasure from that food or from that object. And then we have genuine happiness, which you could be in a room that is empty, you don't have any stimulation, and you can sit in your meditation and enter a state of peace and joy and bliss and happiness that is coming from within, because your mind is balanced, right? So that's the kind of happiness. There's nothing wrong with having some temporary happiness, but knowing that you can't demand from impermanent changing stimuli to give you lasting happiness, more if you understand that the happiness is not coming from there, it's coming from you and the way you are interpreting them and you're relating with them. Yeah? You have a question? Yeah? Yeah.
I have a question, but maybe it's a bit complicated to explain. But when you mentioned the two kinds of happiness, I feel like both are about sensation and not essentially give you a purpose of meaning to life. Like you can sit and meditate and have fun or get some fun from food and stuff like that, but like maybe the answer is not there, like you can't really get a meaning from only nice sensation, whether it's from meditation or from...
That's a very good point, because when we meditate, we also get attached to meditation, right? And we also think that the positive experiences we're having are coming from meditation. So that's why many texts and many teachers are giving us that warning of enjoy that bliss that comes from meditation. There's nothing wrong with enjoying it, but don't get too attached to it. So when we sit and meditate, we shouldn't do it with an expectation of just experiencing joyful feelings. Usually you can have a lot of painful feelings in meditation, right? We were talking about the body being in discomfort. We can have our mind having some kind of mental suffering because it's distracted and we cannot keep it focused. So there can be experiences of suffering during our meditation, but as we start balancing more and more through meditation, there are three characteristics that are going to arise. And one is non-conceptuality, which is also called peace or silence. Your mind gets quiet. The thoughts start being more sporadic, and you're not paying attention to them, so your mind enters into a state of calm abiding. And so in that calm and that peace, maybe you've never experienced this because your mind you have an internal chit-chat that never stops. And then suddenly having that silence, it feels really good. It feels like very spacious, right? Or the second characteristic is that you can experience great bliss, experiences of joy, of happiness coming, right, of your meditation, and then you want to sit again and experience the same. And the other characteristic is clarity or vividness of the mind. It's very sharp, very awake, very lucid. And we all want this tree. We're looking for this tree everywhere, right? For example, when we go to a retreat or when we go on a holiday and we just want to have that experience of relaxation, of peace. And it doesn't last. And we keep searching for this in different things and situations. And then we search for this bliss, of course, in all kinds of stimuli. We already talked about this pleasure we look for. And then we look for clarity in different ways. Maybe for some is doing extreme sports, going in a motorcycle at high speed or jumping from a parachute or a bungee or going to watch horror films. That gives you a lot of clarity. You're very tense, but you're very present. Your mind is very vivid. So we look for this tree in everything we do, right? And we search for. But these are in our mind. These are arising in our mind when it enters into balance. And so when we meditate, we're going to start having these experiences. The thing is, because we are used to get attached to this, if you want your meditation to be repeating that experience that you had in your previous meditation, and then you have another kind of experience, and your mind is all distracted, you're feeling pain in your body, or a strong emotion that it doesn't feel good is arising, then you feel my meditation was very bad. So what happened? Before it was good and now it's bad. So we shouldn't want or prefer one or the other. We just sit, and whatever comes is okay, and whatever is okay. We are meditating, and all the sessions are good. So in that sense, that happiness, as you clearly found, is not genuine happiness, right? Because there's still grasping, there's still preference. But in order to get to a deeper level of happiness, we need to pass through that way. So it's not like we have to reject that happiness if it arises. But it's a slightly better happiness that is, in the sense that is coming from within. It's starting to balance your mind, and that's why you have those experiences. So they're called jnans, or meditative experiences, because they're signs of progress in your practice. The problem is that if you grasp to them, then they're leading your meditation astray. So you don't want to reject them, or want them to last, or get very proud about them and then say, oh, I saw colors of lights and Buddhas manifesting around me, or I had this feeling of my body levitating, or whatever experience you have. Let it go, because it's never going to happen in the same way, and you cannot replicate it at will. So, that's not genuine happiness in the sense that it's just an experience, but it's leading us to a place where we will, if we do the meditation correctly, we will let go and not even be attached to those experiences, and then go to a deeper level of peace and happiness, where no matter what you're experiencing, no matter what is the circumstance, you can remain in peace and center. And maybe very disturbing things are arising, but your way of perceiving reality and relating with it will be completely different. Of course, in order to get there, you're almost enlightened. It's not like it's going to happen tomorrow after doing a little meditation. Well, there's people that can do that, but maybe they have karma from previous lives manifesting. But for most of us, it's not going to happen so fast and so easily. But we shouldn't worry. We should just allow whatever comes and goes. And the key to make it meaningful and to live a meaningful life is our motivation. So we're going to talk and do meditations about how to cultivate a meaningful motivation. So the highest motivation we can have is the bodhicitta motivation, the wish to attain enlightenment or discover enlightenment, and do it so that we can be of benefit to all sentient beings. But we're going to discuss how to start cultivating that motivation, first as an aspirational motivation and then in action, right? But in every session, we're going to start doing a motivation, as we did in this session, and at the end, we will do a dedication, because then we are kind of taking that energy we're creating in our practice and directing it towards living a meaningful life. And that's going to make the difference between a meditation that is just mundane and is just for feeling good and pleasurable, and transform it into a spiritual practice, a path of discovery and wanting to really live that meaningful life and doing it for the benefit of ourselves and others. Okay? So continue with your meditations as you have been doing. Incorporate the drop, the practice of drop that we did this morning, and also this practice. Allow this reflection. It will come up during your day, and just take some time if you want to do one session or just reflect about this during the following time you're going to be here, just exploring how is my mind creating this experience as a pleasurable experience or as suffering, right? So observe your mind, observe how you are reacting to different stimuli in your environment, and reflect on this. Okay? And we'll meet tomorrow again at 9. Tomorrow is Sunday? Yeah, well, tomorrow, let's meet tomorrow as a normal day, and then the next Sunday we will have it free as we said. Okay? Well, thank you.